Shall we start? Okay. So welcome back to this session once again. I'm so glad. Why I'm glad, when one session gets cut, another session goes on. In between, I get n number of messages in WhatsApp. Ma'am, ye kya hai? Ma'am, wo kya hai? Ye explain karo, wo explain karo. So that is why every time when we cut the previous session and I join into the next session, I'll have to look into the questions what the students have asked. Then I join into the session. So that way, when we were into the previous session and before I come to this session, I was just writing all this. And there were a few questions that came into my WhatsApp. So first, let us give a quick revision and I will give the answers for those questions, whoever has asked it, and then we will proceed with the next session. Okay? Okay. So let's give a quick, I think everybody are in? All participants have joined the session? Yes? All have joined the session, right? Hello? Have you all joined the session? Yes? Okay. Yes. Thank you. Now, are you all in full Josh? Are you all in full Josh? Yes? The same? Okay, so we've been into the session for last 1 hour. Okay, great, done. Now let's give a quick revision of whatever we discussed so far, right? What is that we discussed so far? Very simple. We started with a very simple mechanism of, somebody's asked me, the scientist who discovered the functions of DNA polymerases. The scientist who discovered the function of DNA polymerase 1 was discovered by Kornberg, and he was the person who discovered that particular DNA polymerase 1 is the first enzyme which was discovered, and that is why DNA polymerase is called as Kornberg enzyme. And coming to Linov fragments, I'll tell you what did Linov do, Asha, because the same question was asked by somebody else also to me in WhatsApp. So when we were quickly revising the portion, what have been happened till now, then when we talk about Linov fragments, I will explain about what did Linov do, what is Linov's experiment. I will repeat once again. Is that okay, Asha? Yes? And somebody also asked me about primase and RNA primer. I'm going to answer those 2-3 questions. So we started with DNA replication. We were talking about conservative, semi-conservative, and discontinuous mode of replication. And we all know that in last class we discussed about Nissen-Stahl experiment, where he discovered that DNA is semi-conservative. He proved that in 1957. And we had an explanation of Nissen-Stahl experiment. And I guess all of you would have gone through the PowerPoint presentation of Nissen-Stahl. Right? And then we also discussed about conservative and discontinuous, which is given in the PowerPoint presentation. Then we said, similar to Nissen-Stahl experiment, there was also a scientist called, who is that? Who discovered, similar to Nissen-Stahl experiment, who discovered the DNA is semi-conservative in plants? Can somebody give me the answer? Who is the scientist who discovered the DNA polymerase in plants? Taylor, correct Asha, Taylor. And which plant he did? Vishia Faba, and it's also called as Faba beans. Yes, Faba. It's not Faba Academy, but it's Vishya Faba, which is also called as Faba beans. Yes, and then I said that we will discuss about DNA replication. We started with replication. We all know the basic concepts of replication. It's nothing but the synthesis of DNA, and which is happening in S phase of the cell cycle, and duplication of DNA takes place. The parental strand acts as a template, and new strand is being synthesized. Yes, and we also know that the DNA replication in prokaryotes and eukaryotes are different. And we also discussed about the very simple or first thing which is very, very important is replication bubble, which means the origin of replication plays a very, very important role in DNA replication. Then we discussed about how the origin of replication, ORIC, which is a very important region of DNA replication in prokaryotes. And I also said very similar to ORIC, or the origin of replication or replication bubble, the replication fork in eukaryotes deals with autonomous replicating sequences. Yes, and we also said the DNA replication is bidirectional in prokaryotes, whereas it's only unidirectional in eukaryotes. And we also see the DNA replication is what? Circular, whereas it's linear in eukaryotes. In other words, I also said the DNA replication, which is in prokaryotes, happens in cytoplasm because it is devoid of nucleus, whereas the DNA replication in nucleus takes place in chromatin and nucleosomes. Yes, and similarly, in the PowerPoint presentation, we have 2 slides in which all the differences between DNA replications of prokaryotes and DNA replications of eukaryotes are given in the PowerPoint presentation. And I said, and I requested all of you to go through all the differences of DNA replication in prokaryotes and DNA replication in eukaryotes. Another very important thing that we discussed is there is only one origin of replication in prokaryotes, whereas there are multiple origin of replications in eukaryotes. Yes, ORI regions or the replication fork regions are many in eukaryotes. And then we started with the enzymes involved in DNA replication. It's very simple. So we just quickly discussed. We all know what are the enzymes which are involved in DNA replication. Uske alawa, I said more than understanding the enzymes involved in DNA replication, which everyone are learning in your UG PG classes. Most important thing that we need to understand is the DNA polymerase. The DNA polymerase in prokaryotes, DNA in place of DNA polymerase, what is acting in eukaryotes. Then we discussed about the DNA polymerase enzyme, which are responsible for polymerization activity. It acts as a catalytic activity for synthesis or addition of DNA in 3' direction. Addition of nucleotide take place in 3' directions. The addition of nucleotides which are DNTPs, which are nothing but DATP, DTTP, DGTP and DCTP are being added. And then we also said that this particular DNA polymerase is of 3 types: DNA polymerase 1, DNA polymerase 2, DNA polymerase 3. Yes, then we discussed DNA polymerase 1, DNA polymerase 2 and DNA polymerase 3, which is a subunit that each DNA polymerase has. Yes, though polymerase 1 is abundantly present, it is less active. Though polymerase 3 is less present, it is abundantly more active, because DNA polymerase 3 plays a very, very important role in replication. Then what is the role of DNA polymerase 1? We said its main important role is 3', 5' activity exonuclease. What it does, it is going to remove the RNA primer. The main function of DNA polymerase 1, what did we say? It is going to remove the RNA primer is going to be removed. Yes, that is what I said. Then when we discussed about DNA polymerase 2, what did I say about DNA polymerase 2? We discussed that DNA polymerase 1 is also called as, yes, DNA polymerase 2 is repair mechanism. DNA polymerase 1 is also called as Kornberg enzyme because it was discovered by Kornberg. We also discussed the other name of DNA polymerase 1. Do you remember? DNA polymerase 1 is called Pol A and DNA polymerase 2 is called Pol B and DNA polymerase 3 is called Pol C. And we also discussed that DNA polymerase 1, Kornberg enzyme, plays a very important role to remove RNA primer. Yes, and DNA polymerase 2 has a very important role in repair mechanism. At this juncture, now I will clear the doubt which you asked. Somebody asked me to explain about the primase enzyme and RNA primer. Yes? So what is RNA primer? When we are talking about the replication fork, let me draw this simple diagram of the replication fork. Yes? So when are we going to draw this replication fork? This is going to be the 5', this is going to be the 3'. And here it is 3', and here it is 5'. Right? Now we will be knowing that here, the 5' to 3', this is going to be the continuous strand, which is the leading strand. Yes, correct. And here, this is going to be the discontinuous strand, which is a lagging strand. And what is going to happen now here? When this is a lagging strand, then how the lagging strand, the DNAs are added? The DNAs are added, yes, the DNTPs are added into the Okazaki fragment regions or the lagging strand regions by means of short interfering RNA primer. Correct? So here you have the RNA primers, here you have those RNA primers, here you have those RNA primers, here you have those RNA primer. Is that clear to all of you? Yes? Now these RNA primers are over here and here you have the replication fork. So by means of the RNA primer, all the short DNA strands which are added into the lagging strand region, yes, into the lagging strand regions are being connected by means of RNA primer. Now who's going to produce this RNA primer? Primase. Is that clear now? Primase. Primase is the enzyme which produces the short RNA primer. And what is this going to do? This RNA primer is going to attach all the short DNA fragments which are joined. Now, final step, what will be the final step? Since all the DNA needs to be joined for the synthesis of new strand, the final steps would be the RNA primer will be removed. Yes, which means excision of RNA primer and ligating the DNA strand. This is going to be the final step in which replication is over. Is this clear? Yes? All of you? The doubt is clear now? Okay. Now another question that was asked by somebody is on Linau fragments. You remember we've been talking about DNA polymerase 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So we've been discussing about this DNA polymerases. I said there is one scientist called Linau who did an experiment on DNA polymerase 1. What did he do? He just added an enzyme called proteases. Yes, DNA polymerase 1 mein what did he do? Let me take the blue marker because I've already written this process for explanation. And that is where in the meantime, this question arises. So let's write it over here. Yes. Or I think whatever I've written already is on the board. Let us just see. Is the board visible? Or should I rewrite? For linear fragments, is the board visible? Is this visible or should I rewrite? Is this visible or should I rewrite? Okay, visible? Great. Board, turn the board. That's what I'm doing. Okay, done. So let's see, what is this linear fragments? Let me tell you. Linear fragment is a part of the fragment which is present in DNA polymerase 1. So we will repeat to understand linear fragment. Linear fragment is the part of the fragment of DNA polymerase 1. So what did the scientist do? He took this part of the DNA polymerase. Okay, he took this part of the DNA polymerase because he wants to know, we already had a discussion. I already told you that the DNA polymerase enzyme 1 has all three activity. Do you remember? All three activity. What are the three activities that I told you the DNA polymerase 1 has? I told you that the DNA polymerase 1 has a 5' 3' polymerization activity, a 3' 5' exonuclease activity, and a 5' 3' exonuclease activity. Is it true? Yes. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Is everybody in? Yes. Okay. Now I'm getting a response. Good. Yes. Yeah. Okay. When I turn on the board, please don't use the chat box. Otherwise, I'll not be able to see. Now, what will happen? This DNA polymerase, what did he do? He wanted to understand these three different activities which are present in DNA polymerase. So what he did a very simple experiment, and he used a, he took a protein, subticillin. Okay, and he digested this particular DNA polymerase with the enzyme protease subticillin. So he digested DNA polymerase with the enzyme protease. And when he digested the enzyme protease, as we all know that the protease or DNase or RNase, it is a digestive enzyme to cleave DNA, cleave RNA, cleave protein. So obviously what will happen? Yes, the protein gets cleaved. Is it clear till here? Obviously what will happen? The protein gets cleaved. Is it clear till here? Yes. All of you? All of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now,
Yes.
once the protein gets cleaved, what will happen? You have an N-terminal component. DNA is where? DNA is nowhere. DNA is become RNA. RNA is become protein. He is doing this experiment. He is working on the cleavage part of N-terminal and C-terminal to understand the particular function of that DNA. Okay. So now, very, very nice question. Okay. Now what happens? The protein is got cleaved. Now, when the protein is cleaved, what will you get? When the protein is cleaved, what will you get? You get an N-terminal, you get a C-terminal. Am I right? All of you? Yes or no? You have an N-terminal, you have a C-terminal. Yes or no? Yes, this is clear? Yes. Now, very simple thing. When the protein got cleaved, it got divided into two parts. A C-terminal part and an N-terminal part. Done? He found the C-terminal is larger part and N-terminal is a smaller part. Now come here. Yes, C-terminal is the larger part and N-terminal is the smaller part. What is the conclusion of the experiment? He found that the C-terminal has only two activities. What are the two activities that he found? He found that the C-terminal has a 5' 3' polymerization activity. Yes, and he also found that this C-terminal also has a 3' 5' exonuclease activity plus TY, matlab activity, active. But he found this C-terminal is not having the 5' 3' exonuclease activity. This is conclusion number 1. So where did the 5' 3' exonuclease activity go? This activity gone to N-terminal part, the smaller part which had the 5' 3' exonuclease. So he concluded with this experiment that, what did he conclude? All these three activities are not present in the same regions. These three activities are dispersed into different regions, and then this fragment is called as Linau fragment. Yes? Is your doubts got clear? Now let's proceed with the continuation of this session. Everyone, is the doubt got clear? Yes? I'm looking into the chat box. You can reply. Is the doubt got clear about Linau fragments, about RNA primer, primase, DNA polymerase? Yes?
Ma'am, I have a question. So when if it's asked in the MCQ, who discovered the functions of DNA polymerase 1, that will be Kornberg. So what will be the question, like, for which we have to answer that this Lenov?
Linau
Like what
means only one thing, which is called which polymerase contains Linau fragments? DNA polymerase 1. Okay, DNA polymerase 1 contains Linau fragments. And what is the conclusion from Linau experiments? That C-terminal is a larger part, N-terminal is a smaller part. C-terminal only contains polymerization activity and 5' 3' exonuclease activity, 3' 5' exonuclease activity. N-terminal smaller part which contains 3' 5' exonuclease activity. Whether the Linau fragments, or you may be asked a question, which of the following has Linau fragments? Polymerase 1, 2, 3, all of these. Answer is polymerase 1. Or you may be asked, which of the following is true? N-terminal has 5' 3' polymerization and 5' 3' exonuclease activity. C-terminal has 3' 5' exonuclease activity. So this is how the questions will be asked. Linau fragments is only associated with DNA polymerase 1. Clear?
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Done?
Yes,
Now, do
ma'am.
you also remember fidelity? Do you remember fidelity? And have you understood why fidelity of DNA is important in DNA replication? Is everyone understood why fidelity of DNA is important in DNA replication? Yes, because the fidelity is nothing but the accuracy of DNA. If the DNA accuracy is missing, yes, if your strand which is being added, you know, when DNA polymerase 3 is adding a new strand, synthesis of new strand takes place, and if there is an incorrect base which is added, and then proofreading has to be taken place. And until the proofreading is taken place, what will happen? G0 phase, that is what we discussed about cell cycle in the initial part. You remember in our previous session, we discussed about the cell cycle part, and I said that is where the DNA replication is stopped. Yes, DNA replication is halted, and after the proofreading, only the DNA replication proceeds. But if proofreading fails, what happens? I said distortion of the DNA helix. And distortion of the DNA helix, very good, correct, Harita. Distortion of the now can somebody tell distortion of the DNA helix will lead to what? Helix is distorted, it will call what? Helix is distorted and it will call what? Who's going to it call for? Quick, before the session ends, come on. Distortion of the DNA is going to call which repair mechanism? Mismatch, correct Harita? Yes? Mismatch, yes Kartik Raja. Which repair? Mismatch DNA repair mechanism. Yes? And once mismatch repair mechanism happens, a mismatch DNA repair mechanism is going to remove the wrong base pairs. And then again polymerase will add right base pairs. If that also fails, then what will happen? Mutation, correct. And that mutation will lead to, correct. Yes, Lina. Yes, Pooja. Mutation will lead to cancer. And this is how we develop cancer within the body. And that is why when we are talking about DNA replication, it is very important. This is how the duplication of the cancerous cells are taking place in our body, because the proofreading part or the mismatch repair mechanisms are missing. And that is the main thing where people are learning or people are reading about how the checkpoints, how the CDKs and CDCs are binding with each other, how the cyclin CDK checkpoints are binding with each other, and how they are, causing the mutations, where are the checkpoints are causing a problem, how the signaling mechanism fails to cause cancer. And in next class, we will be learning about repair mechanisms. Yes, we will be repair. Yes, to correct mismatch, also DNA polymerase 1 is there. But then it doesn't happen. See, what was the question? When that doesn't happen, then what will happen? If it happens, well and good. No cancer. That is what is happening in our body. Right? So this is all about importance of fidelity, importance of accuracy, importance of why DNA replication has to go on, and how the CDK, CDC binds, and all those things. Yes? Now, coming to simple steps involved in the DNA replication. Very simple steps in simple language we are going to do A to Z of DNA replication. We all know that these are the processes of DNA replication. What is it? Quickly, we will discuss in the next 10 minutes. We are going to complete the entire part. What is the first step? Simple. Separation of the two complex strands, because we all know that DNA strands is like this. Yes. Now it has to unwind. Yes. This is what is happening. So separation of two complex strands is the first step. We all know what it is. And when the separation of two complex strands forms, the replication fork plays an important role because the replication fork is the region where the origin of replication takes place, and that is the region where the new strand synthesis starts. Helicase comes and binds with single-stranded binding protein, and the new strand synthesis starts. So that is why formation of replication fork plays an important role. Number 2. Number 3. Once a replication is my connection in? Yeah. Sorry. So what is happening? Now the direction of DNA replication has to take place. Synthesis of new strand has to take place. So in which direction? In 3' direction, the synthesis of new strands of DNTPs are being added. So that is next part. Okay. Leading strand part. Yes. In leading strand parts, we very well know that this is a continuous strand, so it is going to keep on adding. But in lagging strand part, we know it's a discontinuous strand, and when it is discontinuous strand, what will happen? RNA primer has to play an important role. So we just discussed about RNA primer. Is it clear? Is the sequence is going right? समझ में आ रहे हैं ना आपको? Yes. So पहले क्या? Separation of the two strands होना चाहिए in DNA replication. After that, what is going to happen? Replication fork is to be there to direct the DNA replication. After replication fork, what is going to happen? The DNA replication has to start. But the DNA replication started and it is happening in the leading strand region because it's continuous. But it's in lagging strand region because it's discontinuous. You need the role of RNA primer. Yes. In this also, you remember I told you RNA primer. I said the RNA polymerase alpha. The RNA polymerase alpha acts as the RNA primer for eukaryotic genes, whereas the DNA G protein or the DNA G primer, the DNA G acts as the RNA primer in prokaryotic replication. And the enzyme which is responsible for this synthesis of RNA primer is called primase. And after that is done, what happens? After this addition of this only, there will be a chain elongation step, which means after initiation of replication, the synthesis of nucleotide has to continue till it comes out with a no, it's not DNA polymerase alpha, it's RNA polymerase alpha. Why it's RNA polymerase alpha? Because it is RNA primer. You need a short strand of RNA sequences for the Okazaki fragments. So it is RNA polymerase alpha for eukaryotes and it's DNA G protein for prokaryotes. Now what happens after chain elongation? Once completely the chain elongation, all the complementary new strands are being synthesized, right? All the complementary new strands are being synthesized. Then what is going to happen? Termination. So we are going to discuss in detail about the TER-TUS proteins, how termination takes place, what are the different factors involved we will be seeing in coming classes. So excision of then RNA primer takes place. And then after excision of RNA primers, as I showed you, the DNA strands are separate. Now Nick, yes, what is Nick? Ligation. DNA ligase is going to seal, right? DNA ligase is going to seal this strand. And this is the entire process of DNA replication. Quickly, we will see this process in 2 single steps. Okay. Two questions here. Let me ask you. Yes, I'm going to ask you 2 questions over here. What is the first question? What is the role of replication fork? Number 1. What is the role? Function. Let me see if you're able to. I'm not on chat box. Please tell me. What is the function of replication fork? Let me write over here. The first question over here is, what are all the functions of replication fork? Or how the replication fork is formed? When it starts unwinding by helicase, right? What is going to happen? The replication fork is responsible to start the replication in its V form, right? So the replication form takes place in V form, where the unwinding of DNA takes place by means of helicase. Yes, and it is bidirectional. It is bidirectional in prokaryotes, and it is only unidirectional in eukaryotes, and it is called as a replication bubble in prokaryotes, and it becomes a replication fork forming this V shape, right? In eukaryotes. Am I right? Now let us try to understand the bidirectional structure. Very simple. What is going to happen in prokaryotes? Let me take 2 different colors over here. Okay. So now we all know that circular DNA. let's like put around. This is the double-stranded DNA, right? Now what is happening? You have an origin of replication. Let me put this is the origin of replication over here, right? Now what is going to happen? This is going to get divided. So how is it going to get divided? Very simple. Like this. Okay. This is going to be, we are in black, right? So let's do this. And then let's draw something over here. And in this, let me draw a new strand which is started to form. Okay, let me divide the replication fork in a different green color. Right? Let's keep this in the green color. Or in a red color, right? This is going to be the replication fork. Yes. Now what is happening? A new strand is synthesized over here. Right? Still the replication fork is retained. Now this is going to wind up in an opposite direction. Yes? This is going to wind up in the opposite direction. How is it going to wind up in the opposite direction? This is this way and this is this way. So let's see how it is going to form. It is going to twine in opposite direction, which means let's put two circles together. Yes, for ease of drawing. And then let me start drawing the new. This circle means it is DNA, okay? Which means it is like this. Okay? And then you're going to have the new strand which is formed over here. Complete new strands are already formed. Yes? Now what will happen? This particular fork, the replication fork, will move towards this region. Right? And this particular replication fork will move towards this region. Yes? And this is going to get cut. And now what will happen? You will get a complete two new strand over here. This way. Yes? For saving time, I'm drawing it fast. Now what will happen? This particular fork retains over here. Yes? So this is how the bidirectional mode of replication in both the directions it starts. And when this point comes in both directions, this way it starts forming like this, and this way it starts forming like this, right? And when this merge comes, why did I draw this experiment over here? When this merge comes, and this is the point where the termination signal, when the two, please make a note of it, TER-TUS protein, we will discuss about it. TER-TUS, yes, the termination and TUS protein. So when this is in bidirection, okay, when the replication bubble, when the replication fork regions complete its turn and it merges, at that point of time, the elongation stops. Is it clear to all of you? And then the termination, excision happens. Then the termination takes place by means of some termination factors. And then the replication stops. Is this clear to all of you? Yes? Yes? Is it clear to all of you? Yes? Yes. Okay. Yes, so shall we? Yes, Miss Karthik Raja, Iniyat Entral, Harita. Yes. Okay. Now let's quickly discuss this. So separation of DNA strand is clear. We know that separation of DNA strand is going to happen in this way in prokaryotes, and it's going to happen with multiple replication fork in eukaryotes. That's step number 1. Now formation of replication fork. When you're talking about formation of replication fork, you have to understand about SSBP. You have to understand about single-stranded binding protein. So similar manner, let us this SSBP, single-stranded binding protein over here. Yes, it's very simple. It is just going to bind to the single-stranded DNA. This is going to bind to the single-stranded DNA, which are generated by helicases. Yes, which are generated by helicases. And what is it going to happen? It has again two functions. Yes, it has again two functions. These two functions of single-stranded binding protein are very important MCQ. Please make a note of it. The first function of single-stranded binding protein is to keep the two strands. Yes, is to keep the two strands in a separate manner. Its main function is the helicase, which is caused unwinding. It is sitting over the SSBP. So the two strand which forms the replication fork or the V has to be separated. That is the main function of SSBP. And what is the second function of SSBP? The second function of SSBP is to prevent the DNA from nuclease activity, because we all know that nuclease is the enzyme which digests the DNA. So SSBP are the one which are covering of this particular unwinding regions. So the other main function of SSBP is to prevent the DNA from digestion of nuclease enzyme. Yes, to prevent the DNA from nuclease activity or to retain the DNA. So this is very important, and these are the two functions of single-stranded binding protein. Okay. Now, what is happening next is about topoisomerase. What happens to this? When this DNA is unwinding in one direction, we all know that there is something called as supercoiling. Yes, supercoiling which are formed on the opposite direction. So when the supercoiling is formed, what will happen? Topoisomerase are the one which are placed to remove the supercoiling, which means if this is the condition, yes, here what is happening over here? Here the DNA is becoming like this. Right? The DNA is becoming more and more closer together. Supercoiling takes place. So topoisomerase is very important role is to prevent the supercoiling. And again, this is only not important part. The other important part is there are two types of topoisomerases. What is the function of topoisomerase 1 and what is the function of topoisomerase 2 are the very important MCQ question. So when you talk about topoisomerases, we know that this is to prevent. Topoisomerases are to prevent supercoiling. Okay. When I say topoisomerases are to prevent supercoiling, we know that there are two types of topoisomerases, right? So what is the role of topoisomerases 1 and what is the role of topoisomerases 2? Topoisomerase 1, as the name suggests, it is going to cause the nick only in one strand. Okay. Topoisomerase is something to prevent supercoiling, which means it has to cause the nick to make the strand loose. So this topoisomerase 1 will help in causing the nick only in one strand. As the name suggests, see, topoisomerase 1 which is going to cause the nick only in one strand. And topoisomerase 2, as the name suggests, the topoisomerase 2 is causing the nick in the two strands. Please make a note of it. Again, we are not stopping with this. Another very, very important MCQ. Yes, this, when it is causing the nick in one strand, it is increasing the linking number by 1. Now, you know what is the homework I'm going to give you. What is linking number? Okay. And this is going to increase the linking number by 2. I think Lena has given us a warning signal. We will soon join the second session. Please go through what is topoisomerase type 1A and type 1B and immediately join the next session and we will complete this entire part. Right? Yes? Lena, please end the session. Please go through topoisomerase type 1A and 1B. So topoisomerase is type 1 and 2 and in 1 you have 1A and 1B. Let's discuss that. So all of you please quit this session and join us in the next session where the Zoom invitation is given by Lena in our WhatsApp group.